श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। जन्माद्यस्य यतोन्मयादितरतस्य अर्थेष्वभिघ्नस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्मरुधाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यं सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि. So far we were discussing about Skanda 10 and we have come across around 85 chapters in Dashamaskanda. Dashamaskanda is the biggest among all the Bhagavata Skandas. So we are at the end, tail end of Dashamaskanda. Only 5 more chapters left, and the stories and the storyline and the teachings in the last 5 chapters is not much. So I would like to cover today all of that in one shot. So that completes the Dashamaskanda today. That is the plan. So we have seen what happened in Kurukshetra during the great eclipse. Then coming to the next discussion between Shukamuni and Parikshit Raj. So Shukamuni is asking, Parikshit Raj is asking Shukamuni another question. Would you explain how I heard that Arjuna, my grandfather, got married to Krishna's sister in the same way as Krishna got married to Rukmini. It is an interesting story, so that may be the reason Parikshit Raj wanted to know the history of his grand. So as soon as Parikshit Raj asked about this story, Shukamuni started telling that story, what happened. This is the timeline that he is following with they met in the Kurukshetra, and now looks like that may be the time where this is not mentioned in Bhagavata Purana, but since it is followed up on that chapter, I was wondering maybe that is the time frame when Arjuna saw Subhadra and maybe got interested. But unfortunately, one thing had happened. Balarama has decided to give his sister, maybe he's also promised to give his sister to Duryodhana, because Duryodhana was the student of Balaram. So now what is left is to both have liked, Subhadra and Arjuna liked each other. Now the challenge is elder brother has agreed. This is typical Hindi movie style, right? Elder brother has agreed and forcing her to marry Duryodhana. So now there should be some trick played. So here I think I remember mentioning that Krishna allowed Arjuna to do the same thing what he did when he was getting Rukmini. So there then in this time frame, there one thing happened, that Arjuna, when to protect some local people's need, that is to he happened to go, I think there was some Brahmin came and asking the help because somebody has stolen their cows and other things. Some story is there behind this. It talks about that. Because of that, he happened to enter the bedroom of bedroom of Yudhishthira and Panchali, that is Draupadi. So there was a condition that if anybody disturbs that, when they are, because Draupadi was being shared by 5 brothers, if that is the turn of his brother with spending the time, then another person should not go and disturb. So this guy went in. This is all story you know. So that is the reason I am making it fast. So Arjuna entered to pick up his bow in that area, but he happened to see them together. Then it is against the rule, and also he wanted, as per the rule, he is supposed to go to Tirth Kshetra, that is Paschatapa he has to do. But Yudhishthira Dharmaraya said, no, no, you did for another purpose, to help the people, but you should not go. But Arjuna felt that it is not fair to do so. He decided to go. Whatever the reason, he decided to go for Tirtha Kshetra visit. Maybe it is planned also. So we don't know. That is not mentioned in the Bhagavad Puran. Bhagavad Puran says, in the first it starts about Subhadra and Arjuna are interested in getting married, but Balarama is not interested. So now there is a drama that is created. So Arjuna happened to start his pilgrimage. He visited so many places, came to Prabhas. I think this Prabhas is a common place that time in the past. It's near Dwarka. The people used to visit and spend time. So here also he came that place. When he was there, then Krishna visited him, and also Krishna came with his brother Balaram. But this guy was in a disguise. Arjuna was in a disguise as a sannyasi. But Krishna knew that he is Arjuna because they were very close friends. Maybe they have texted to each other, whatever it is. Krishna knew that Arjuna is there in Prabhas, making the pilgrimage visits, and he took Balarama with him and said, "Hey, this is a very sannyasi with a radiant personality." So Balarama, being Balarama, he's most of the times disconnected. So he felt, yeah, it must be great sannyasi. Then he invited him to home. So that is the strategy that Krishna planned. So as soon as that was the Chaturmasa time, so Chaturmasa means 4 months, the sannyasis would spend not traveling anywhere. So they said, please continue your Chaturmasa in our place. So that typically Chaturmasa happened in the rainy season, so that that is a difficult time to travel also. So that may be the reason sannyasis did not travel that time and stayed at one place. And the kings and the subjects, the public always donated a lot during that time, so that the sannyasis and associated people can survive. And sannyasis did their job of spiritual knowledge transformation, that is knowledge transfer process, like pravachanas and other things, bhajani, all those things they must have done that time. So same thing now, Arjuna has been, as a sannyasi, has been asked to do the Chaturmasa stay at Dwarka. And that was the time when people used to feel respecting the sannyasis by serving themselves. So Krishna said, let us ask our Subhadra to serve sannyasis, so that she will get the blessings before the marriage. Again, Krishna's plan. So this Krishna and Subhadra knew each other. Maybe they have met once. Now Subhadra saw Arjuna, and Arjuna saw Subhadra. Then they decided, okay, this is the plan working well. So they spent, she served him in the Chaturmasa time. Then maybe after a month or weeks, they don't mention in Bhagavad Puran when was that. Arjuna identified a plan. One day when everyone is visiting a nearby place, which is nearby Dwarka, outskirts of the Dwarka, where people go to participate in the chariot festival. There was a chariot festival, and Arjuna happened to be there as a sannyasi there, observing that. So that is the time they choose to get out. So Arjuna changed his dress and threw away this sannyasi dress, and by that time he has completed almost a year of pilgrimage according to his rules. He took Subhadra in the chariot because it's part of the chariot festival. So everybody thought some chariot is running very fast, but actually Arjuna taking Subhadra with him. Then Balarama came to know that this is a trick they played by Arjuna. Somehow the message leaked out. So Balarama got very angry. But he has done, Balarama did the same thing with Duryodhana's daughter also, right? Duryodhana's daughter and Krishna's son got married that way. That time Balarama supported, but this time he is not supporting, but Krishna was supporting. Krishna is neutral. He did the same thing. If they are loving each other, let us go. Correct? So Krishna let her go, and he also arranged for the plan. Now Balarama was angry. He sent some Yadavas to fight. It is a nominal fighting happened. By that time, Krishna came and convinced Balarama, why are you doing this? This guy is better than Duryodhana. You know Duryodhana, where he stands morally, and also the way he is conducting his behaviors. You want to give your sister to him, kind of thing. So most of the times Balarama is always convinced by Krishna, because Krishna has been very neutral and a very logical mind, and also charming. So Krishna convinced Balarama, let Subhadra go with Arjuna. That is the story. Of course, it is elaborate story. One full chapter is there. That is mentioned in the Bhagavad Puran. After this all happened, Krishna, the Bhagavata talks about Krishna visiting the Mithila. Mithila is in the past, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga. This is Dwapara Yuga. We are discussing about Krishna's story, right? In the Treta Yuga, Mithila is the place where Sita was born. So Krishna was feeling to go to visit Mithila. Maybe because of the previous avatara's connection, or whatever the reason, because Krishna knew there are two persons who are very fond of Krishna, who are the real bhaktas of Krishna. He wanted to see them. One of them is a Brahman called Shrutadeva, who lived in the city of Mithila, and he was conducting his duties as per the norms of the Vedic style. He lived like Sudhama kind of role, right? And he spent all his time in the religious rituals and Bhagavan, Prarthana of Bhagavan, kind of thing. So Krishna wanted to bless him. The another king, of course, if the reason they talk about, one is a Brahmin, is an ordinary person, and another person they talk about, Bahulashva. He is a king of the Mithila, and he was a very nice king. He was a member of the dynasty of the Janaka, that kind of person, and he is conducting his kingdom very well. He ruled the whole province of Videha very well. He was well known. He was very popular. He was very kind person, and also internally he was mentally evolved. So he is waiting for the darshan of Krishna. So now Krishna decided to bless these two guys. See, this is the beauty of Bhagavad Purana. In the message, it says there is one guy who is not at all rich, but he is doing his duty. In another side, he is a king and doing his duty. But finally, Krishna is measuring only the bhakti part of that, not the what kind of life they are leading, kind of, right? Both are bhaktas of Krishna, and so he went there. There is a beautiful discussion that happens between them, Bahulashva and Shrutadeva, how they serve Krishna and how they got blessed by Krishna. Then each worshipped him, and Krishna ended up staying for around a month there. Then he blessed both of them. During one single visit, he completed his. See, now Krishna, if you look at the way he is doing, he's check marking all the activities he wanted to do during his avatar. That he is taking care of everything that was supposed to happen. So that is this is one chapter, half the chapter covered by the story. Then the Parikshit Raja is asking a question. When he heard these stories about Krishna visiting this place and helping the bhaktas for that, and Shukamuni also talks about the way Vedas being used by those two bhaktas, kind of thing. So now the Parikshit Raj has a very interesting question. He says how Vedas can directly refer to the Bhagavan Krishna, Bhagavan Vishnu, or truth, absolute truth, or Brahman, or Krishna, whatever we call. How Vedas can directly mention? Since Vedas deal with the materialistic realm, and this materialistic realm is governed by the sattva, rajas, tamas, three modes of nature, right? But you say Vishnu, the Brahman, right? We shall call it as the absolute truth, is not at all influenced by these three trigunas because he is a transcendental being. So how a Vedas which deal with the material realm governed by these three trigunas directly refer to the Bhagavan, how they represent. He was feeling a contradiction in the concept. So Shukmuni said, yes, this is the same question that was discussed. It is not that means these are all the questions are every time they are there. That is the indication of what Shukmuni is saying. This has been asked by Narada also in the past. Narada, again I repeat, is an intuitive mind, maybe asking these questions whenever the situation occurs. So this happened when there was a Rishi in the Badrikashrama called Narayana Muni, and Narada happened to be there, and he saw Narada Muni teaching in the nearby village about the Vedas and other things, and he put the same question. Then Narayana Muni says, this is not a new question. This has been asked by in the Jnanaloka by other sages. Again, this is a third fold story in a story. So I will tell that story. When the sages asked those stories in the Jnanalok about the absolute truth, how Vedas represent absolute truth, Sanandana Kumara is one of the four brothers. If you remember, we talk about four brothers, Sanakadi brothers, Sanandana Kumara, Sanat Kumara, right? All those. Sanaka, Sananda, Sanat Kumara, right? Like that, there are four brothers who were Manasaputras of Brahma when the creation happened, and Brahma requesting them to, this is a third skanda topic I am talking about, he requested them to continue the creation as per Bhagavan's request. Those four brothers said, no, we are not interested in this. We don't want to enter in this business of creation because it has its own stress. So they left this and went to Vaikuntha, and then they were staying there performing puja and all the bhakti with Vaikuntha, Sri Narayana. That brother, one of the brothers is called Sanandana Kumara. He answered to the question of some of the sages. They asked the same question, how Vedas represent this. Then he said, these Vedas we talk about as Shruti, right? They are heard, they are not written. There is a Smriti and a Shruti, right? Remembered once and told once. So these Vedas are existing even when Pralaya has happened and Bhagavan is in the non-creative mode. Those are the first ones that get personified. Personified here means the voice comes. That's what wakes up Bhagavan. So that means these Vedas are also not influenced by the Brahma's creation of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas gunas. They are there before that. So Vedas are always there with Narayana. They are the one that giving the alarm, ringing the alarm of Narayana to wake up. Elu Narayanane, Elu Lakshmi Ramana. Right? That is the kind of thing those Vedas are doing. So they are not influenced by though they look, sound like that. Of course, how much of Veda is left now? I heard so many scholars saying that mainly 10% of Veda that which existed, which was heard, and which has started, which Narayana shared with Brahma, Brahma shared with Narada, Narada shared with the public. Now it has come, and finally left is only 10%. So whatever is now is maybe more materialistic representation or rituals and scripts and all those things, rituals and activities which talk about the materialistic world. But in the past it must be bigger. Again, it still exists with Narayana. So Sanandana said that's how Bhagavan gets woke up to start the creation. Of course, Bhagavan doesn't sleep. Maybe it is alarm for him 10 minutes before the meeting, right? So that's what he gets. It's actually he gets 12.5. I think I did mention this in third skanda. 100 years of Brahma, right, is a creation, and remaining 100 years is a pralaya and silence. But at the 87.5 years of that 100 years, Bhagavan Vishnu starts. That is the time the Vedas giving the ringtone to Bhagavan. It takes 12.5 years of Brahma's time, Brahma's lifetime, to create Brahma coming out of the Nabhi of Vishnu. So that 12.5 time period is the ringtone time for Vedas. So this is mentioned, this is the answer directly. Of course, it is a very elaborate chapter in Bhagavata Puran, but this is the gist of that chapter. So that question is answered. Now, Parikshit Raja has another question. See, now we are coming to the end of the Dasamaskanda. A small questions that Parikshita had asked are being covered. If you remember, in the entire Dasamaskanda, because of one question, entire Krishna Leela and the entire thing was answered. 85 chapters. Now the remaining 5 chapters are discussed about the small questions that Parikshit Raja has. So now Parikshit Raja is asking another question to Shukamuni. You say Vishnu possesses all the affluences and Lord Shiva lives in a poverty, right? Vishnu has all the Vaikuntha and all this luxury, and Shiva lives in a remote place which is Smashana, and it is in the far away from everybody, and he lives in a poverty like Charmam. He wears Gaja Charma, that is elephant's skin, and he wears powder, the Smashana Budi as his powder. That kind of poverty guy, who Shiva. But yet the devotees of the Vishnu are generally poor, like the Sudama kind of people. And when you talk about devotees of Shiva, they are rich and they are powerful and they are like Ravana and others. Why so? Why the rich God has a poor followers and poor God? That means financially they're talking about. God has a rich followers. What is this irony, right? That is a question. It's a very interesting question. Anybody can get this question if we are thinking, right? So Parikshit Raja asked this question to Sukhamuni. Then Shukamuni says in a very decent way, if you remember, Parikshit Raja, if you remember, Vishnu existed before Brahma, and Vishnu creates Brahma, and Vishnu is a transcendental entity, right? He is not at all influenced by any materialistic world, materialistic tattva, sattva, rajo, tamo, any other these things, right? Pancha bhutas also. Nothing can, he is already there before. He only created the Brahma. Brahma created Shiva. Brahma created Shiva after creating Mahat Tattva and then Ahankara Tattva. During the creation of the Ahankara Tattva, Shiva was born. So Shiva became the representative god, the Abhimani Devata of this Ahankara Tattva. If vaguely we convert this Ahankara Tattva into English, of course it is not an equal translation, ego, right? Which manifests as a three-fold Sattva-Tamo, Rajo gunas, varieties, three varieties. That is nothing but Ahankara Tattva. That's where the materialistic world starts. So Shiva is the manifester of this three gunas, and as soon as this is born, then the false ownership, the Ahankara comes with physical elements. Then he talks about all the things, the transformation of material nature into 16 different elements, 25 elements, all those things that we discussed in the third skanda. Same thing repeated here. So as soon as Shiva worship, the person who worships Shiva naturally manifests the result in the form of this materialistic wealth. So that's why they are rich. They become rich. They get all this, whatever Shiva has in his hand, that's what he's offering. But in case of Vishnu, he comes from a transcendental world. He and his devotees are more interested in the transcendental nature, the mukti. The followers of, most of the times, the followers of Vishnu are more interested in the mukti rather than the materialistic world. So that may be that is the reason the rich god, that is Vishnu, which we call it as, because he is the husband of Lakshmi, Bhagyada Lakshmi. Though he is that, he offers the transcendental nature to them. That is mukti. So that is the answer. And he also says, Shukamuni, it is not the first time you are asking this question. Your grandfather, that is Yudhishthira, has asked the same question at the end of the Ashwamedha Yaga. Same question he asked. For that, Krishna replied, saying that I feel, this is Krishna's word, I feel special compassion for the someone bhakti, when he performs the bhakti. So I intentionally, gradually deprive them of the wealth. Then deprive them of their kiths and kins, that is family. Then when all is abundant, then I will give him the mukti, so that I will show him the better world. I mercifully frustrate them to come to me. This is what Bhagavan says to Yudhishthira. These are the Krishna's words to Yudhishthira. That is again repeated by Shukamuni to Parikshit. Said, your grandfather had the same question. This is what Krishna said. Then Krishna said also that then I will give them the mukti and the stay in Vaikunta, that is the moksha. I said we discussed about different five types of moksha, right? Look-alike, friendship kind of thing that we discussed in the past. Sarupya, Sarojya, something like that, right? 5 of them. Sayujya. And he says Vishnu, Brahma and Shiva each bestow without, of course, Brahma and Vishnu can bestow the favors to devotees. But Brahma and Lord Shiva are the one, they get easily satisfied by the bhakti performed by the devotees very easily. So they immediately, quickly respond. This is a quick service from those two guys. So that is the reason most of the asuras, they don't worship Vishnu. They go to Brahma and Vishnu, so that Brahma and Shiva, so that they get benefited immediately. That's what Bhagavad Purana says. And also he talks about, in the past there was a asura called Rukasura. This Rukasura wanted some power. So he went to not Badrikashrama, he went to Kedarnath, and he worshipped Shiva there by offering his body parts in the sacrifice, in the fire. Still Shiva did not show up. Then he decided to cut off his head and offer. This guy knew, if I do this, Bhola Shankar will appear. Otherwise, why one commits suicide, right? He tried to do. As soon as Shiva felt, oh my God, this guy is going to commit suicide, so he appeared and asked, what you want? Rukasura said, may death come to whoever I touch upon on their head. Please give me a power. If I put my hand on somebody's head, they should die. Shiva is a Bhola Shankar. He said, okay, what is there? Go ahead, take it. But Rukasura is a wicked guy. He's Asura. He said, let me test on you. Shiva started running. This is a story. There must be some beautiful philosophy behind this, about the Ahankara Tattva and the superpower, owning the superpower. For example, of North Korean king, right? Having in the sitting on the topmost role in the country, creating so many nuclear weapons, right? Rukasura kind of people. Even anybody is going towards the destruction of the world, their ego is so high, they don't care about what is happening in the world. Maybe Rukasura is that kind of self-destructive personalities. But they think they can kill the entire world by putting his hand and all those things. This is a story. Maybe the symbolism behind the Rukasura's attempt, and as well as how those kind of guys gets blessings of Ahankara Tattva, that is Shiva. Anyway, Rukasura started running after Shiva. Shiva started running planet after planet. He went, they say in the Bhagavad Puran, he went all the 7 lokas, upside lokas, running and getting the protection, because he doesn't want to be. And he entered into the Shvetadvipa, where Narayana is sitting. So Narayana saw this guy coming, Shiva coming, running towards him, and he checked what happened, and then they said, okay, rest here, I will go. So Vishnu went as a small young student, the Brahmin. The way he went to Bali Chakravarti, the same way he went towards Urukasura. This is the strategy. Again, this is the strategy. If you want to win against a strong enemy, you don't have to go as a strong personality. Go as a simple, so that they ignore you. That's what even Hanuman did when he entered into the Lanka. He just go as a small guy and show the power when it is needed. That is a strategy that Vishnu also played here. He went as a student. Rukasura doesn't care about this boy with Yadnopavita and like student coming there, and he did not try to test on him. He wanted to test somehow on Shiva. Maybe Bhagavad Puran says, not only Rukasura wanted to kill Shiva, he wanted to get married to his wife, Shiva's wife, Parvati. So that was the main intention. So he ran after him again. But now this boy comes there and says, where are you running? Why are you so tired? Looks like you have crossed so many planets. That Rukasura said, yes, I am after this guy. He looks like he entered into Shvetadweep. Oh, then this boy says, why don't you understand? Do you know? Shiva thinks if you keep your hand on his head, that means he will not die, then he will be exposed. He said, you got the power and you thought you got the power. You have never tested with anyone. You have not done any QA on the power that is given by Shiva. Now you want to do test on him. He doesn't want to be tested because he will fail. Because Shiva, you know what he has. He lives in a place where nothing exists. Have you seen his dress? He is a gazette. He's just wearing the. Do you think he can give that much power to you? If at all he has that power, he would have played with you, right? Then this is the mindset of a person who is highly egoistic. He did not think this boy must be tricking him, because boy is a small guy there. So Rukasura said, oh, is it so? Then how do I test? He would have tested on that boy, but that boy is a transcendental any person, so it should have nothing happened. That boy would have not died because he is the Narayana. But he said, oh, you just test on yourself. Keep your hand. If you die, keep your hand. It doesn't work. I know. Then Rukasura said, okay, let me test. He put his hand on his head. Rukasura died. So that's what Krishna played. The Vishnu played a role of savior of the world. That is, the creation was happening. Ahankara Tattva is most important for the existence of this world. Rukasura is another a power that comes through the sadhana, misused by the asuras. So same thing we see in the world. Like so many people get power, the wealth, and they start misusing, and somehow nature catches up, like the way it's happening in this corona situation and others, right? Nature takes care of it. So nature is here. I'm talking about absolute truth, that is Vishnu. So it takes care of the things by tricking. So then one more question Parikshit Raj has. So he talks about, no, this time it is not a question, it is the interesting story that Shukamuni wants to tell Parikshit Raj. By the way, do you know this story about your grandfather, what happened one day? The same discussion was happening about the greatness of the Vishnu and the greatness of the Shiva and greatness of Brahma. The same in the Saraswati river, the sages were sitting and they start, as and when the time has elapsed, people start getting confused with the creator, the maintainer, the destroyer, that Vishnu, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. There is a mix-up of knowledge. People may forget the nature of Vishnu. People may forget who created Brahma, and also they may forget who created Shiva. Suddenly, they just followed the materialistic world and they felt this is the greatest God. Some people even worship Ganesha as the highest god, right? These are all demigods. Demigods means the devatas. Vishnu is the ultimate truth. Rest of them are created as part of the kalpa and they refurbished. Every kalpa happens, they come back. And the same person, same Atma will not come as that God. The Shiva in this time, in this kalpa, will not appear as Shiva in the next drama. He may be appearing as a Vayu. Then he may be appearing as a Brahma. Then he may be disappearing, getting the moksha. That means he won't take the parts in the drama of creation. That's what Bhagavad Puran talks about. This people who miss this concept of the creation, Suddenly they become attached to a Bhagavan, saying that this is the ultimate, and then they start hating the another creator, or maybe another uh, devata. There is a common misunderstanding in the people we see. Skanda, there are followers of Skanda, they say the Skanda, that is Shanmukha, is the only god, rest of them are lesser than him. So they, but of course those devatas won't fight among themselves, but the people, the followers, start fighting. This is the typical mindset of the materialistic world people who follow. So this is also a part of the Maya that is happening, avidya, that is created after the Ahankara Tattva that we saw in Skanda 3. That is the Maya. There are 5 types of Mayas, right? That we saw in the Mohancha, Mahamohancha sentence in Skanda 3. So all these things are influencing us to think in the way, thinking that Shiva is better than Brahma, Brahma is better than Shiva, both are better than Vishnu, and he is the ultimate God. That kind of question, which is meaningless question, but it shows up. That also showed up during the Saraswati river, by the side of the banks of the Saraswati river. Sages were sitting, among them was the Bhrigu Rishi was there. He also got the same question. Bhrigu said, we need to test. Some people want to demonstrate, not teach. They want to demonstrate. So Bhrigu is a son of Brahma, I think son of Shiva. So he said, okay, I will demonstrate this by going to visiting these people. So that is the time these the Dwapara Yuga, they could visit the different realms, right? They used to travel. So Bhrigu said, okay, let me go and visit these guys and come back to you. I will tell you exactly who is the better. Who is the word is not better. Which one of the is the greatest? Is not the better word, greatest. Okay, let us call it as the greatest. So Bhrigu decided to test tolerance of all the 3 people. So he went, that is the one he wanted to test. First he went to Brahma's place, and he did not even respect him. Actually, I think I made a mistake. He is a son of Brahma and brother of Shiva. So he went to his father's place, but he ignored him as if he has not seen him. But Brahma got angry, which is not supposed to happen, right? He is a devata, but Brahma also has a dosha. He can be influenced by this mohas. Even if you remember in the 3rd skanda or 4th skanda, Brahma is requesting Vishnu, you are asking me to create this world. What if I get attached, if I get ego, thinking that I am the one creating all these things? Though you are the one asking me to do the program management, you are funding the entire thing. What if I think I am the one who is doing this? I don't want to get into that. So that time Narayana told Brahma, you are not the one doing it. So think of Naham Karta, Harir Karta, Harir Karta, Hi Kevalim. Always keep this in your mind. So naturally you don't get attached. Right? But still Brahma gets angry when Bhrigu did not respect him. Then Bhrigu said, okay, this guy has the same issue as others. Then he comes to Shiva. Now Shiva is brother of Bhrigu Rishi. He stands up and tries to hug this brother because he has seen his brother there. But Bhrigu says, no, don't come to me. You are so far, you are not at all well dressed, and you are not at all wearing the regular things. I don't want to hug you. Shiva gets angry. Then he sees, okay, this guy also gets angry. So that means he is not there yet. Of course, you may be wondering, this story you must have heard. Brahma, then Bhrigu curses Brahma, saying that you will never be you will never receive any puja in the world. All those things is not there in Bhagavad Puran. Maybe it is some other Puran covering this part of the stories, but Bhagavad Puran did not talk about Bhrigu cursing Brahma, Bhrigu cursing Shiva to be formless, right? There must be in some other Puran. I will figure out where it is. Now here Bhagavad Puran says Bhrigu also thinks that Shiva is also has that ego. He gets angry. So he goes to Vaikuntha, where Narayana is in his regular position, sleeping, and Lakshmi is worshipping him with all her wealth, right? So she is there helping with him. As soon as Bhrigu saw him, Bhrigu, they went there. Vishnu did not look at him. He ignored, because he knows why he is coming here. He made sure Vishnu is the reverse. He put a reverse gear here. He made sure Bhrigu gets angry, not him. That is the beauty of Vishnu. This time, typically in both the places, Brahma got angry and Shiva got angry. Here, he made sure he ignored him. He told Lakshmi also ignore him. Nobody cared the presence of the Bhrigu. Bhrigu got himself under the influence of this Maya. So he went and kicked Vishnu. As soon as he kicked Vishnu, Vishnu came down from that serpent bed and said, "Oh my God, you hit my chest. It is a very tough one, because there is a Kaustuba Ratna there. It must have hurt you." And he was started pressing his leg. Then he requested Lakshmi, "Can you give warm water to Rishi to wash his foot?" Then Bhrigu felt ashamed, and he said, "You, even though I insulted you, you never felt insulted, and you are acting as if you are ignoring my all those things. You must be the greatest soul." So he came back and said to the people on the Saraswati river. Saraswati river represents the river. The Saraswati is Saraswati Devi, Jnana, river of Jnana. So he said, Vishnu is the greatest because he is the creator of the entire universe. This is the message of the Bhagavata Puran. How you take it, how you meld it, all those things is left to the readers. So I will leave the story at this point. Then Shukhamuni talks about another story wherein Arjuna and Krishna happen to visit Vaikuntha. That is very interesting. Krishna himself is avatar of Vishnu, but they both go to Vaikuntha. The story reason, the reason they go to Vaikuntha, that he talks about, there was a Brahman in Dwarka. Again, Parikshit Raja did not ask any questions. Shukhamuni is interested in telling all these stories. When he connected, right? When Bhugamuni went to Vaikuntha, then he remembered Krishna also went to Vaikuntha. By the way, this way. This is how, this is why he went, kind of thing. So they are connected in the thread. So Shukhamuni says there was a Brahman in Dwarka. That Brahman had he had one son, first born son was there. He immediately died as soon as that the baby touched the earth. The Brahman took it very serious. What is happening in this Dwarka? Is this a way? See, when everything is samruddhi, health, wealth, everything is structured properly, the baby should have grown well, because the medical system is good, food is good, air is good. So why does kid die as soon as it's born, right? So he wanted to blame the kings, like Kejriwal blames everybody, right? Central did not give this kind of thing. So for everything blame the Ugrasena, the king. So he said the king of the Dwarka is not doing good. This is the worst situation. The greedy and king like this Yadu kings like Ugrasena. These are greedy guys and they are not doing the right things. Because of that, the newborn babies are dying. So he took that dead body and placed it in front of the uh, king in the fort and said, "This is I am giving you. This is the what you are doing to the country," kind of thing. And he went. The same thing happened to this guy for 9 times. 9 kids were born. The Brahmin came and blamed Ugrasena king, and Ugrasena started looking around, helping. What is going on? Why this? Nobody knows what happened. But the 10th time, when he came, maybe it's 10 years now. The 10th time he came with the same, but fortunately Arjuna happened to be there in the Dwarka with Ugrasena and Yadus, Ugrasena and Krishna. Krishna did not do anything because Ugrasena was the king. He was taking care of the things to do, all those things. Again, this Brahman blamed the Yadus, the Ugrasena for this. This is the 10th one. Not there. This is the ninth one. Ninth one happened. Then Arjuna said, "What is going on, Krishna? I want to protect this. See, you it is insulting to the Yadus. I will stay here and will make sure the 10th one, if they get the baby, I will make sure who is causing this. Yama should be doing all this drama, right? Because they used to go to the different realms that time." Okay, he said, "Okay, I will go and find." By the time 10th one born, Arjuna put a shield with his bows and arrows. He put a shield, that is Yogamaya shield, so that no other negative energy enters around this Brahmin's family, and whatever happens will be healthy thing happens. Fortunately, it happened. The boy was born. That touched the earth. The boy started crying. Everybody was so happy that finally Arjuna did his magic. But as soon as everybody is happy, that boy disappeared. It flew through the sky. Again, Brahman got angry. Okay, this time a different drama happened. What's going on? Then Arjuna said, "Don't blame anybody here. This is beyond any activities here. So I will go and find." Arjuna went to Yamaloka looking for that boy and the other remaining 9 boys. He did not find. Yama said, "Oh, no, 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 I did not take them. I don't know what is happening." Then Arjuna came back and told Krishna that, "Hey, this is looks like beyond my thing. I need to visit all the lokas. He must be in one of these 14 lokas. I am starting." Krishna said, "Don't waste time like that. I know where it is. I only was kept silent because this is the drama that is supposed to be happening. So I did not involve. So since you came, and in the meantime, Arjuna has promised to that Brahmin, if I cannot protect your son, I will die. That means I will take my life." So Brahmin was asking, "Can you do it now?" So then Krishna said, "Now Brahmin is ready." So Arjuna is ready because he could not get that boy in Yamaloka. So he was ready to die as per the commitments. So Krishna said, "Again, you do the same mistake. I have to help you because I am Bhakta Paradhinaha." Right? Krishna is Bhakta Paradhina. So you are my Bhakta. I have to protect you. Come on. I will take. He took his transcendental chariot. So when I say transcendental chariot, means it is with Yogamaya. They went to the Vaikuntha directly. They explain the path, how they went, and they went through some mountain and all those things. Then they give the names of the mountains. It must be Meru mountain or something. This we discussed in the chapter Skanda 5, like how the structure is there. Recently, when I was looking into one of the videos, somebody talks about somebody. I don't remember the name of the person. He talks about when he was in a meditation, he happened to be taken away by some person. As per him, it is a Shiva who took him so far dark place and in the sky, in the far away from the planets and other things. Finally, he end up seeing something Shiva there, kind of thing. He says it was millions of millions. He went in the yoga. Same thing Shri Yam is also talks about. Maybe that kind of things now also happening for you, very few people. But Arjuna and Krishna went into that realm by yoga. There is Yoga Maya. They happened to enter the Vaikuntha because Krishna knew these 10 kids are with in Vaikuntha. As soon as these guys visited, Vishnu saw himself in the avatar of Krishna and also saw Arjuna. He said, yes, you come here, I know the reason. This is how the entire world works. People start blaming their kings, others for their mistakes. So I wanted you to tell you, continue to do the good things. The reason you came here is good. Here are the 10 kids. They are grown well, and you can take them. I wanted to see the reason. Also, the reason I brought them is I wanted to see you both. And please continue your good work and be the examples. So again, pep talk he gave. He gave those 10 kids, and Lord Krishna and Arjuna came back to Brahman and gave back to Dwarka and gave those kids to them. That is the exhibition of the power of Yogamaya. Krishna did show this to Arjuna. So Arjuna says, with Bhagavan Krishna, with your help, anything is possible. Any power can be exhibited. That's how Shukamuni talks to Parikshit Raj, and also in the last chapter of the Dashamaskanda, it is the summary of the Krishna's glories. How Krishna continued his life in the capital with those many wives, and how happy the people were. It's all about beauty of Krishna's glories. The 10th chapter talks about and the 10th skanda concludes with the promises of success for the sincere people who regularly hear, chant, meditate on the beautiful topics of Sri Krishna. With bhakti, the bhakti will increase, and all those things. It is all phalastuti kind of thing. A mortal being will attain the divine kingdom of Bhagavan by listening to the Bhagavata Purana, especially the Samaskanda, and trusting in Krishna and chanting his names and all those things. It is a beautiful story that Dasamaskanda ends with the promises of the devotees. So this is what is about Sampurna completion of the Dashamaskanda, and we will stop here and say we'll do the samarpana of this entire Dashamaskanda discussion with all of you guys to Shri Krishna on the occasion of Diwali day, especially the Padya, right? Bali Padya. And thank you very much. When we enter into the remaining 2 skandas, very small skandas, that 11th skanda, that is it talks about general history. It talks about a lot of teachings like Yadus and Krishna. There is a Uddhava Gita is also part of this. It has only 31 chapters, small ones. And the 12th skanda, talks about the age of deterioration, dynasties of Kali Yuga, all those things. The 12th skanda talks about all those things. The 12th skanda has only 13 chapters. And the 13th chapter is the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the summary. So by doing these things, remaining two chapters, we will conclude the Bhagavata Purana its entirety. That is a great, I am looking forward to complete this in another maybe 13, 14 discussions of 1 hour each. Till then, Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.